You might be asking yourself, did you intentionally pick as your Christmas episode a game based on a franchise that started with a Christmas movie? And yes, obviously, that's exactly what I did. Okay, Gremlins 2 wasn't a Christmas movie, but out of the 8 games released on December 14th, this was the closest I could get. The film Gremlins 2, which in Japan has the subtitle Shintane Tanjo, or The Birth of a New Batch, took the adorable Mogwai Gizmo and put him into a high-rise skyscraper with every facility you could imagine in it, including a research lab where the people there really did not read the 3 rules you have to remember. Before long, there's an outbreak of gremlins in the building, committing comic mischief, and threatening to overrun the city if they get out. The game Gremlins 2 puts you in control of Gizmo, as you initially attempt to escape the building, and then later have to deal with the gremlins that were spawned from you. The A button jumps and the B button attacks, and Gizmo's attacks will change several times throughout the game. Initially, he throws a small tomato that has a very limited range, but after a few stages he switches that out for a match that throws fireballs, then a paper clip that he hurls out, next a miniature crossbow, and finally another match that also does fireballs. I kinda think they ran out of ideas there. Whenever you defeat an enemy, it leaves behind an orb, and these orbs are currency that you can spend on power-ups. You can hit select to see how many orbs you have, as well as any other items. As you progress through a stage, you might come across a door, and this leads to the shop where Gizmo was originally purchased. Don't think about it too hard. There you're offered an array of power-ups, but you're only allowed to purchase one on any visit to the shop. And it's pretty common for you to need more than one thing there. The items that the store offers are Hey Gremlins! This isn't one of those YouTube shows where I do skits. Get out of here and let me get on with things. Where was I? Oh, right. The items that the store offers are medicine, which can fully recover your health. There's a heart, which can extend your life bar by 1. Gizmo starts with 3 hearts, and can take 2 blows for every heart. So your maximum health is 4 hearts, which is 8 hits. You can purchase extra lives. You start out with no extra lives at all, but if you have an extra life, then you revive exactly where you die with full health. So it's really the equivalent of buying a potion. At least they give you infinite continues, as well as passwords that will let you pick up where you left off. The balloons are surprisingly handy. If you fall into a pit, then you'll still take damage, but you'll float out on the balloon and can fly over any terrain for about 10 seconds. You always start with 1, and this can be very useful for getting past some tough sections on later stages. Finally, the battery upgrades your weapon, typically by letting you fire multiple projectiles at the same time. Enemies don't become invincible after they're hit, which means that if you do strike them with multiple projectiles, you'll chew through them pretty quickly. On rare occasions, enemies will also drop something for you. You could get a clock that freezes all enemies in place, or a light bulb that flashes and kills all enemies on the screen. You can also get a pogo stick that makes you invincible for a short time and lets you bounce on enemies. But what the enemies don't drop are health refills. You have to find the shop or complete a stage to get some health back. Gremlins 2 has 10 stages, and the levels can be pretty challenging. There's a lot of stuff in this office building that can hurt Gizmo, and it's really tough to dodge most of it. The best thing you can do is remember that you have the jump. While jumping, you can't be hit by projectiles or damaging objects on the ground. A lot of the gremlins on later levels tend to throw around a ton of projectiles of their own, and jumping is generally the best option to dodge them. I find the enemy design to be a lot of fun in this game. It could have been very one-note with just gremlins running around on the stages, and then the special monsters for the bosses. But you get things like these guys throwing pineapples on the stages. Of course, the bosses are all weird and cool, so that works too. Unsurprisingly, Gremlins 2 is pretty well regarded in Japan. It's one of the games from the period when Sunsoft was making great 8-bit titles, and people seem especially fond of this one. As you might expect, I like Gremlins 2 quite a bit. The only problem I have with it is that if you're moving diagonally, you tend to snap to a horizontal or vertical direction when you let go of the D-pad. So so it's really difficult to just stand still and shoot diagonally at an enemy. But beyond that, if you take your time and be patient, well, it's still a difficult game. The level designs do get absolutely brutal, but it's one of the best overhead run-and-guns on the Famicom. The action is great, the enemies are really cool, and you even have some really tough choices when it comes to purchasing a power-up. It tends to get overshadowed by all of the other great games that Sunsoft put out, but Gremlins 2 is really something special.